Hi everybody, welcome. Today we're making coconut muffins. Coconut cupcakes? They're coconut and they are delicious. It is such a simple recipe. One bowl, a jug for your wet ingredients, some basic ingredients. I'll talk you through what we do. We're going to start with our flour. Now as usual, I don't worry about sifting my flour. For some recipes you need to. For this one you don't. So 1.5 cups of plain flour, and then to that we're adding 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Now just whisk that through. By doing that, we're making our own self-raising flour. Now to that I'm adding my sugar. Now it seems like a lot, I know, but hey, it makes a lot of cakes. So 1, so that's roughly 1. It was a little bit under. I'll make up for it with the 1/4 cup. It was a bit awkward in my bin there. So it's 1 1/4 cup. Now we're adding a pinch of salt and then our coconut. So we're adding 1 1/4 cups of coconut. I use shredded coconut in this. Don't use desiccated, it's a little bit too fine. I buy an organic coconut and it's really thick and woody. So I just blitz it in my little blitzer and then I've got it good to go. So we're adding 1 1/4 cups. Now just mix that through. We just mix as we go to just make sure all of your ingredients are always well distributed once we portion out our little cakes. Pop that to the side. Now let's go for our wet ingredients. So here's where this recipe can get interesting. This recipe calls for 1 1/4 cups of milk. Now if you wanted to just continue and keep this a plain coconut cake, just stick with your 1 1/4 cups of milk and then add your butter, add your eggs, mix it together. You've got coconut cakes. I'm gonna mix mine up a little bit because I made some marmalade jam, and as you can see, it's too runny. And even if I put this in the fridge, I know it's not gonna set. So I just sit it to the side and I know I'm gonna use that to flavor my cakes or sauces for pork or anything. It's beautiful marmalade jam. It still tastes good. It's just too runny to hold on to toast or anything I wanna use it for. So I'm gonna use that today. So I've got 1 1/4 cups of milk here and I'm gonna add, let's say we add 3/4 of a cup. Let's just do that. Now to this, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add my 2 eggs. Now 2 eggs, just give them a light whisk. And then to that, we're going to add our butter. Now I have 125 grams of butter. It was melted, but it's solidified because it sat on the bench for a little while, but that's fine. It doesn't have to be runny melted, it just has to be soft. Soft, melted. Now don't pop that in the sink, just pop that in your flour because you're gonna use it again. Now whisk that through. The butter stirs through nicely. Now, here's where we can add our jam. Like I said, I've got runny marmalade jam here. Now I've water bath canned that, so I know that that's on really tight. I have this little gadget. I'm assuming it's called a lid popper or there goes my jar. I can't get these lids off without popping the air into it. This little gadget, whatever it's called, fantastic. Then your lid just comes off. Marmalade, beautiful. Now when you're adding sugary things to a recipe, just make sure that you're aware that it does change the consistency of your cake batter. So if I was to add more than, I wouldn't add 1/2 cup. I will add probably over 1/4 cup. That was a short 1/4 cup. So 2 small 1/4 cups. let's go with that. So if I was to add too much jam to this recipe, I've added a lot more sugar. So when your muffin starts to cook, it's gonna look sugary and act sugary, and it won't rise the same, it won't look the same. When it comes out, it'll have all those little bubbles all over the top and it'll look sugary. So we don't want that, so don't overdo the jam. So under half a cup. I would say about 1/3 of a cup, but I don't have 1/3 of a cup measure. So I went with two small quarters. Okay, now that's it. Now at this stage, I just double check all my ingredients to make sure I haven't missed anything. So I have my flour. So down the list, let's check. We have our flour, we have our baking powder, we have our sugar, coconut, a pinch of salt, we put our butter, we've got our 2 eggs, our milk, our jam. Now, I've still got some milk left in here, so when I start to mix this, if it's really stiff, I know I can always add some more of this milk. So pop that in. This is pretty much it. We just stir it through, make sure it's not too thick, and then we just put it in our little cupcake cases. Now I usually use my silicone ones, but today I'm putting them in paper because I'm heading out tomorrow and I'm taking these little ones with me. Now that's a little bit runny for me. I'd like mine a little bit thicker. If I have it a little bit thicker than that, then the muffin is going to rise a little bit slower and it'll get those little cracks on the top. I say that before I put them in the oven, but I'm going to add a little bit more flour. You never know when you need to make some adjustments to your recipe. I mean, I've got really large eggs at the moment, so that can make a big difference to the moisture in my batter. Maybe I was a bit heavy-handed on the flour. Maybe the flour's a different brand. Things can vary in the kitchen. So as long as you're aware of the consistency that you're chasing in the end, just add a couple of extra things as you go. At the end of the day, they're your cakes. A recipe's there to guide you, teach you things, then make them your own. So that's really good. I'm really happy with that now. It's a little bit thicker. So they're ready to go into the cases. Now we want them about 3/4 full. Don't overfill them. They will spill out and make a mess of the oven. Now when you're making cakes, you never know how much you're gonna have left over. So I've always got a second pan. So if you do go out and invest in a muffin pan, always buy yourself 2. 9 times out of 10, you always have batter left. So if I didn't have this second pan, I'd have to wait until those were cooked and cool enough for me to get them out, and then you're in the kitchen too long. It's easier to just have another pan. I'm putting them both in. I've got 2 shelves in my oven, so they can cook at the same time, that's fine. So I'll get them in. Now what a great recipe for your leftover jams. Because they have coconut, then adding some fruit like marmalade or strawberry jam or whatever jam. Don't ever dispose or discard your runny jams. Put them in your cakes. They are fabulous. They are better than fruits. I have a basic cake recipe and I use exclusively jams in it. Sometimes if I have fresh blueberries, I might add those, but keep your jams. Soon we'll do some jamming. And there are our muffins. Now I set the timer for 15 minutes for those, and when I checked them, they weren't cooked. So I set the timer for another 5 minutes. So all up, they've had 20. So 20 minutes in a 180 fan forced oven. Now I'm gonna leave these sit in the tray just for 5 minutes until they cool, and then I'll put them out onto my rack. I don't ice these, I don't do anything. Because they have the sweet jam in them, you get a little chunk of chewy jam with every bite. So give them a go. They couldn't have been easier. See you next time.